world is just a bad place, a scary place, and the choices that I made were not good for me, or they weren't right for me. That led to a lot of destruction in my life. I relied on my own strength and my own self-sufficiency, and it carried me through quite often. But I always crashed. I ended up always crashing in some way, and then very literally I crashed. I was in a car wreck that led to this medical journey of just sickness and brokenness in my physical body, and in my head, in my brain. I struggled big time. But then the Lord allowed another car wreck to happen. When this second car wreck happened, I was already, because of so many medications I was on from the first car wreck, it was destroying my body. I mean, I was so sick. The medication just really made me sicker. And then I had another car wreck. So those injuries just completely wiped me out almost. And I lasted for a couple months before I ended up just crashing out one day, and I was in the hospital for 17 days before I came here. A lot happened, but I met God as my healer, and He did a miracle in my life. After I started improving, after a few days, I definitely was not doing well, but well enough that I could come here. My family knew about Strong Tower through Dave being here. His mom, she used to be like my big boss, and she's really good friends with my aunt. God is so cool like that. When I first got to Strong Tower, it was so blurry. I came straight from the hospital. I was so weak I couldn't even push a broom. They fed me, they clothed me, they woke me up with coffee, got me in line and told me to walk to breakfast, told me to walk to class, showed me where to sit, and that's just how I did it. I needed them and they did it for me. I did my part, but they definitely did their part. Being in worship and prayer every day, being washed in the Word, sitting in these classes every day, just learning and listening and soaking it in. I would pray that God would give me understanding, that He would give me knowledge and wisdom, that He would give me revelation, just little by little, one step at a time, moment by moment. So I fell in love with Him greatly. In this time, God's given me clear vision, clarity, completely gave me a renewed mind.
When I was growing up, I had a really good childhood. I actually remember thinking about how other kids' their parents were split up or their families just weren't like mine, and I was very grateful that my mom and dad were still together. And then at 14, my mom passed away on the way to our dearlies. She rolled her van like a couple times, and it killed her on impact, but we didn't know that till after like 3 days of being at the hospital with her that she was brain dead. And from then on out, it was just me and my dad living together. We were both grieving in our own ways. I had started experimenting with drugs, and I probably tried every drug that I'd ever done in that first year that my mom passed away. Things were just so different. My dad was preoccupied with everything that had happened, that nobody really noticed how bad I had gotten for a couple of years. And then they started to notice, and by then I was 18 and dropped out of school to be with the dad of my kids now. We were together for 2 years, and I ended up having Peyton, and then a couple years after that I had Tony. Everything was good for a little while. Things just got really bad. We had moved to Houston and then reconnected with a bunch of old friends, and like things escalated very quickly. Within a month of us having our first house, we lost it. Everything we went to drugs and to just that lifestyle. I really just put my kids on the back burner, and I'll never be able to get back the time that I lost. I finally had enough of what was going on between me and their dad. I left him, and things just started going downhill even quicker, and like I really lost it. I was just like I was completely out of touch with reality. I didn't know, I couldn't trust anybody. I was so scared of what people were going to do to me next. I lost all trust for everybody, even my family. I ended up doing something really foolish one night, and my dad called the cops on me. And they showed up, and I had drugs on me. So they took me to jail. While I was sitting in jail, I remember crying out to God, even though I never really prayed to him or really even believed in him up until this point. But I cried out to him saying, please get me out of jail. Just please get me out of here. I said I'd probably never do drugs again, but I knew that I was lying. I told him, you already know if I'm going to do it or not. The next day, I went to court and I got PR bonded out. Out of nowhere, a lady came in the courtroom and bonded me out. After being on probation for 3 months, I failed every drug test that they had given me, and they offered Strong Tower as a way to serve the rest of my probation. And at first I said no because I didn't want to go away for a year, but then after another week of being out in the world, I realized that if I didn't go, I probably wasn't going to make it. I come to Strong Tower. It was completely different than anything I thought it was going to be. I just did what they told me to do. I was very obedient when I got here, not because of a fear of God at first, but because of fear of man. So after being here for so long, I no longer had a fear of man. It was a fear of God that motivated me to be obedient, and it truly brought me a long way. I started to really see my heart change about a lot of things. I started being able to trust people more. It started transforming me into being a person that I never thought I would be. I was always very just closed in and not social with people, and it helped a lot. It helped really just build my character. The more I started praying and fasting, God just started taking off all these barriers that I had up and just all these strongholds I had up and just delusions about what life was. This place was so awesome. It was everything that I could ever dream of a way out, and it really saved my life from who I was. I'm really excited that my kids are going to be here, and I'm going to learn how to be the mother that I was always meant to be but never could be.
Growing up, I had a pretty normal childhood. Very loving parents, a loving home. I was on a right path. I grew up learning to work for what I wanted, and that my future, my happiness was all determined by what I do for myself. Eventually, when I made it to high school, I started hanging out with a bad crowd. I started looking for happiness that I thought I wanted. I started finding it in other things like drugs and alcohol, marijuana. It wasn't until I was 16 when I was introduced to the Devil's Hope, which is crystal meth. It really got bad after I graduated. I was going to school in college and bartending in and out of bars, and I went on a vicious cycle of depression and addiction and broken relationships. Every day it was a constant struggle with using, cutting myself, just pushing away everybody I loved away from me and destroying my future. Until one day in front of Walmart, I met Strong Tower. They told me about the program, and I wasn't too thrilled about it because I wasn't a very big believer in God. Everything I had ever been taught in school and my own experiences, I didn't think he was real. Now, I came into Strong Tower with wrapped up wrists and dope sick for about 2 weeks. After those 2 weeks, I prayed to God, asking him to help me, because if I had left here, because I wanted to leave, if I finally wanted to leave, that I was gonna die, and I had nowhere to go, and I had no other options. After that day, everything started to change. Something changed inside me, almost like I was back to life a little bit. I started sleeping, eating again, and this happiness that I had for so many years found in drugs was now becoming to be a normal thing every day, and I found it in God. I found it in praise and worship. I'm now a head intern, and I'm working in the intake department, and it's just truly a blessing to help bring these guys in, help set up a door, and let God just change their lives radically for His glory. And every day I wake up excited to see the change and the restoration on this entire campus.